Diabetes is a global health issue that impacts people from all ages and backgrounds. From prevention and early detection to management, it is a complex medical condition. Today, we'll be discussing all the facets of diabetes, including the importance of maintaining a healthy diet. Let's kick the show off with specialist physician and endocrinologist, Dr. Jocelyn Hellig, who brings us a wealth of knowledge and expertise to this conversation. Welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome. So, diabetes is known as the silent killer, isn't it? Why so?
So, it's got quite a name. So type 2 diabetes and type 1 diabetes are known as a silent killer because specifically for type 2 diabetes, the disease can go undetected for many, many years before it's actually diagnosed. And during that time, which is approximately 5 to 10 years in people with type 2 diabetes, elevated blood sugar can already affect different organs.
Okay.
So it can have an effect on your eyes, on your heart, on your kidneys, on your nerves, and even on your brain. So before people actually present to a healthcare system, they've had high sugars for, on average, 5 to 10 years. And during that time, it's had a lot of opportunity to create a lot of damage in the body.
Yes.
So often people present with quite advanced complications of diabetes, and that's at the time of diagnosis.
How does one ascertain whether you have the silent potential killer inside of you?
The recommendation is to go for screening. So to go to your doctor or to go to your clinic to have your blood sugar tested. And people who would probably benefit from this kind of screening procedure, so this is to pick up individuals who are asymptomatic but have diabetes. We usually recommend it in people with a body mass index of over 25, and you calculate that by taking your weight in kilograms and divided by your height in meters squared.
Your weight in kilograms divided by your height in?
Meters squared.
Meters squared, okay.
So if that's above 25 and you, for example, have a family history of diabetes, you have hypertension, you have high cholesterol, you have polycystic ovarian syndrome, or you've had, for example, a baby who's weighed more than 4 kilograms, we recommend that you go and see your healthcare provider and you ask to be tested for type 2 diabetes.
Okay.
Type 1 diabetes, on the other hand, is a little bit different. So that's usually quite a dramatic presentation. People are usually unwell for a couple of weeks only before they present to a healthcare system. And those people have really extreme thirst, they go to the toilet a lot to pass urine, and they often have unexplained weight loss. So those are what we call red flag symptoms. And if you have any of those, you should go and see your doctor urgently.
Immediately, okay. So doctor, please explain the different terms. You've spoken about type 2 and type 1. What is metabolic syndrome and insulin resistance? Because that's also affiliated to diabetes, right?
Correct. If we go back a little bit and just sort of the underlying pathophysiology or how type 2 diabetes happens is that your pancreas, which is an organ that makes a lot of hormones, including insulin, basically gets tired. So it produces a hormone called insulin, and you can think of insulin as like a key. So it opens the cells so that sugar that we need for energy to power the cell can go from the blood into the cell where it needs to work. Okay, and that's what insulin does. It's a key that opens cells.
Okay.
So if you don't have enough insulin, or if the insulin you have isn't working properly,
you don't have your key.
You don't have your key, or your key isn't working. So that sugar stays around in the blood. And essentially, the first stage in the development of type 2 diabetes is when you need a lot more and more and more insulin to achieve normal blood sugar.
Okay.
Eventually, your pancreas can't keep up anymore, so it gets tired. And that's when insulin levels start to fall. And that's when you develop type 2 diabetes. So insulin resistance is actually a clinical diagnosis. It's not a diagnosis we make on blood work. And that is the first stage on the road to the development of type 2 diabetes.
Okay.
The metabolic syndrome, on the other hand, is a constellation of different risk factors for the development of type 2 diabetes and cardiovascular disease. And at the hallmark of the metabolic syndrome is an increased waist circumference. Okay, so that's more than...
Waist circumference.
Waist circumference,
okay.
And that's a waist circumference, so that's the area around your middle,
yes.
of more than 80 centimeters in a woman and more than 90 centimeters in a man, regardless of what your age is as an adult. So that indicates all the fat that is sitting around the abdominal organs, okay? So for the metabolic syndrome to be diagnosed, you have to have what we call central obesity which is an increase in fat deposits around the abdominal organs, plus either high blood pressure, pre-diabetes or diabetes, and cholesterol problems.
Tell me some positive good news. Is any of this reversible?
So the good news is that type 2 diabetes is the prototype lifestyle disease. When we speak about lifestyle, we speak specifically about weight. Okay. And managing your weight is the best way to prevent type 2 diabetes because it is the biggest modifiable risk factor. In addition, if you are newly diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, you can actually put that diabetes into remission. So I always tell my patients when they come to me and they're young and they're newly diagnosed and they have no complications of type 2 diabetes, I say, listen, for me, I want you to have no diabetes. And I know this is a bad business model, but so be it. But essentially, with significant lifestyle management and weight loss, even people with diagnosed type 2 diabetes can put their diabetes into remission. Okay. And that means having a normal blood sugar on no medication.
Dr. Hellig, thank you very much for your wealth of information and your expertise and your tips as well. Very informative, and I hope that you at home will be implementing that too. We will see you in a bit.